In this video, we're going to take a look at the tool SockMonkey, which is a displacement plugin found in the object properties. What SockMonkey allows you to do is to use various items to displace a mesh. Basically, it's kind of like being able to turn whatever item into a bone. It creates bindings in one of two ways. It can either use selection sets or weight maps. With selection sets, of course, vertices are either in or out of the set, which is more or less like having a weight map where all the vertices in the weight map have a 100% value. So for the most part, you'll generally find that the best use for it is with weight maps. You can then select your vertex set, so for here let's just have, say, weight 1, and you can pick an item to act as the control, which is essentially like creating the bone. In this case, let's pick the camera. So there it is, there's our camera. It's assigned to weight 1, and to set and bind that all up, we just hit add relationship. We can now see that moving the camera brings along those vertices. They are pretty much skinned to the camera. And like this, you can create a list of multiple items affecting multiple maps. You can enable or disable each of the different items that you have set up. You can choose to use rotation or not, in which case only translation and of course scaling would be taken into effect. And you can also check here to edit the rest position, which lets you move the thing before unresting it. It's kind of like just moving and re-resting bones in that sort of a fashion. You then have this other check for use weight values. Here, if you have a weight map that of course has blended values, so some vertices at 100%, some at 50, whatever, it will use those. And vertices will move or rotate with the object in accordance with all of that. You've also got the little batch tab here that lets you enable or disable all the relationships you have to set up. You can click to unrest everything to allow you to edit the rest positions, and you can remove single or all relationships there. You can also, when you don't have any control items associated, use the auto setup object. What you'll see that does is create a bunch of control items for you, which we see here. They're basically just nulls and they get parented under the item itself, and those are then automatically associated to different weight maps. You can notice the method of blending here. This is the same weight plane item from the weight maps video, and how this first main one is overriding those other two. If we just edit its rest position there, shove it out a bit, we can see that the distance is having no real effect. So in a large way, SockMonkey is kind of like using bones with weight map only mode applied. Of course, all this tool is really doing, as we've already said, is allow you to use nulls or whatever objects in place of bones. Now, for a long time, that hasn't been particularly useful because, of course, it is similar to the weight map only method. You can't use any of Lightwave's clever little deformation tools with the joint compensation or anything like that. And of course, these deforms won't export as a bone structure. These controls won't export as a bone structure. For that reason, SockMonkey has been largely ignored, and in all fairness, is perfectly reasonable to ignore. However, there is a change that has been done in 11.5.1, Lightwave version 11.5.1, and that is to alter the evaluation order of SockMonkey. What it now does, that it didn't do before, is it evaluates after bones. And this is very important. So here I have a character who's all rigged up, and he's nice and muscly, and maybe we're wanting to get some additional muscle effects on him beyond that which we can just get with the simple deform tools. One thing that you'll see people doing is trying to stick in little muscle bones like this, which are skinned to just a particular area. In this case, I've got a weight map for the bicep there, and they'll try to animate those or link them in order to get the right kind of deformation. The problem is, of course, that this bone is deforming things at the same time as all the other bones. So what happens when I twist this upper arm, which has a nice twist structure running through it to give us distributed twist, is this bone here still hangs on to the bicep, which is a real pain, because that means that it causes this horrible deformation. You've sort of got to try and repose it around to get it to sort of fit, and it's just generally not the easiest thing to work with at all. And of course, on a joint like this, the shoulder, where the whole thing has to go into all of these myriad of different poses, the kind of adjustments that might be needed to be done on this muscle bone can be incredibly time consuming. That's not to say it can't be done. In some characters it's much harder than others. In some characters and setups it might actually be impossible to get what you're after. You'll get something working for some poses but not for others. The point is, this method of using extra bones like this for muscles has been of very limited use. And it's always been difficult, and you never really see it done that well, or providing results that are that great. However, if we have a null here that's operating on Sock Monkey and adjusting things thus, that gets evaluated after the bone deformation. So if we put a twist onto the arm there, which is nice and distributed and coming from the bones there, we see that the Sock Monkey item is not affecting him, evidenced by the fact that if we toggle the Sock Monkey on and off, there's no change. The Sock Monkey deformation happens after the bone deformation, and that means that we can use our regular skeleton to get the nice, smooth overall deform that we're after, while still using Sock Monkey to get these additional effects on top. And that makes it extremely useful. Of course, this is a great place to use Cyclist on your Sock Monkey controlled item, and that means that you can come along and get effects going on like this, where the movement, scaling, rotation and whatever else of the Sock Monkey little controller there is tied into something else via the Cyclist modifier. And working like this, you can get really nice, helpful additional shaping without an awful lot of work, whether you're wanting just to correct a shape at a point, maybe pull out the point of an elbow, or if you're wanting to actuate a muscle or similar. So there we have it, the revamped Sock Monkey that was introduced in Lightwave 11.5.1. Well worth checking out, well worth making use of.